Hello, everyone. My name is Salon, and I am the blogger at spirituallivingforbusypeople.com. I hope you can hear me all right. This is my first time live streaming, so I think you may have a chat box available to you. So if you are able to let me know that I'm being heard and everything looks good on your end, that would be great. So I know it's just about 3 o'clock. And then give a minute for anyone who may be wanting to join and who may be just seeing my email. I sent it out pretty last minute. But the reason why I wanted to do this was to just contribute whatever I can to helping in our world today. We know what's going on, and whatever I can do, even if it's something very small, as showing up here and sharing my thoughts. And great, thank you, Wayne, for that. And just sharing my thoughts about what's happening and how we can get through this time. I wanted to offer that. I've been thinking about doing a live stream for a long time, but have been very afraid of doing it. I love writing blog posts. I love doing that and then sharing that. Being live on the internet has always been something that's scary to me, but I thought that I needed to show up in some form, again, just to offer hope and support. And this is going to be pretty informal. I kind of put together a few thoughts that I wanted to share, but it's going to be relatively informal. I'm going to share from my heart and hopefully have a chance for you to ask questions if you have questions or concerns. But before I dive in, I wanted to just allow us to center ourselves. So if you are sitting, watching, I hope you're in a comfortable place. I would like you to just take a moment to bring calm to your heart. We know we're all feeling afraid. We're all feeling a little concerned about our health, about the health of our family and friends, about the health of healthcare workers who are on the front lines trying to protect us. So take a moment to breathe. And if you'd like, you can close your eyes. You can put a hand on your heart and just become aware of your feelings, your emotions right now. Are you feeling fear for yourself? Are you feeling fear for your family? Maybe you have an elderly relative, a parent, a loved one who you're concerned about, but are unable to be with in person right now. How about those who are sick in the hospitals, in the ICUs? Those who are fighting for their lives, even as we sit here. I want us to bring presence to those people who are fighting for their lives, for people who are sick, maybe who are having mild symptoms and are quarantined at home and are concerned, maybe not as ill, but are concerned, feeling isolated, feeling alone, and who are struggling. And of course, we can bring presence to thinking of those who have died. We have many thousands of people who have died from this illness. Let us bring presence to those people who have passed away. Thinking of their families, those who are mourning their loss, we bring presence to them as well. So we pray for those who have died. We pray for those who are sick. We pray for those who are afraid. We pray for each and every one of us as we try to make our way through this time, uncertain about what the future will bring. Amen. So I see that there are a few people here. Tell me where you're from. Where are you viewing this call from at this time? Thank you for coming. And again, if you have a chat box, you can just enter where you're coming from. So all of a sudden, we, on a global scale, have time on our hands. Time that we never thought we would have. This is often a very busy time of the year, certainly for me in my line of work. I'm a chaplain, which I'm still doing that work as a hospice chaplain for the time being, but I'm also a music director. And at this time is the busiest time of the year, getting ready for Easter. And now there are no church services. Everything is on hold. And all of a sudden, I have time, and in a very unexpected way, and in a way that I would not have chosen. But I suspect for you, in your life, there is similarly, life has not just slowed, but ground to a halt, really. All the things you were doing, concerned about, everything has ground to a halt. And so we're all, in our own spaces, afraid, but there's so much that's happening as well, where people are coming together in different ways, mostly online, which is wonderful to see. But what do we do with that time? What do we do with that time that we have suddenly? It's a very chaotic time, so we feel a sense of unease, of panic, of chaos. And how are we managing that? I want to read something for you. So I wrote, in my most recent blog post was about chaos and how to deal with chaos. And there's a little passage from a book by Jordan Peterson, who you may have heard of. And if you've heard of him, you may know that he can be a very controversial person. He's a very controversial writer, but I found just a little passage here that I found very valuable in this time. And he talks in the beginning of this book about chaos and order, and the relationship between chaos and order. And he says, chaos and order are two of the most fundamental elements of lived experience, two of the most basic subdivisions of being itself. So chaos and order aren't things that happen to us. We have periods of chaos, periods of order. It is part of being itself. It is part of what it means to be human, that we have these times where we feel like things are going well, things are in place, and then times when it feels like our world is upended. And both of those together is what life is. You may be familiar with the symbol, the yin and yang symbol, which if I had a picture, I would show it to you. But it's kind of that black and white image, that swirling pattern of chaos and order, and both of those things come together. If you look at that image, and you can Google it, and again, if I had it, I would show it to you. If you look closely at that image in the so let's see, we have so Wayne says he's from Michigan. Welcome. And Mary Mary Kate from Troy, thank you for tuning in and watching. So I'm talking about order and chaos and the relationship between those two. And we experience order and chaos as part of our lives. And if you can probably think of that image, order, chaos, black and white. Notice in the white there is a black dot, and in the white section there is a black dot. So even within the order, there is a little bit of chaos, and in the chaos there is a little bit of order. So they both go hand in hand. Even in periods of relative calm, we can have chaos. But even in chaos, we can have the seeds of a new order, of an opportunity for something new. So with this time that we have on our hands, where we feel like things are very chaotic, we may be wondering if we'll have jobs tomorrow. Will we be able to have income? Will we have health? There's so much going on that it might feel as if all is lost. But I want to argue that even in a moment like this, there are seeds of opportunity to grow from this crisis, opportunity to grow in your relationships with others, opportunity to grow in how we deal with uncertainty, which is really always there. It just feels like it's brought to the surface, but we know as human beings who are fragile in many ways that even in periods of calm, even when everything is going well, even when there is no chaos, so to speak, we know that we can lose it all in just an instant. And again, if you've followed me for a while, if you know me personally, as some of you here might, and if you know of my work, you know that for the past 2+ years, I have worked as a hospice chaplain. And it is really in that work that I get to live uncertainty every day. So not just at a time like now, but every day for people who are facing the end of their lives. They're having to deal with uncertainty every single day. And not only them, but their loved ones, families, they have to deal with uncertainty. We know that there are many poor people in this country, in this world, who have to deal with uncertainty every single day, not knowing where their next meal is coming from, not knowing where they'll live and stay. So I think in this time we have an opportunity to be mindful of people who have uncertain lives every single day. Even when the economy is great, even when there is no virus, their lives are uncertain every day. And so maybe one of the opportunities we have is to become more empathetic toward people who have uncertainty every day of their lives, and to be able to see them, notice them. They don't become invisible anymore because of what we're going through. And I think this crisis is going to bring up many things to the surface on a societal level that we haven't dealt with. One of them is certainly poverty, and dealing with the uncertainty and crisis that people have every single day. And I think what we're experiencing on a grand scale is a kind of a death. And forgive me for using this language. Again, this is what I do every day. I help people through end of life. I think what we're dealing with is a kind of death. For those of us who life has been relatively calm without too much crisis in our lives. We've never struggled with, food insecurity, with money in the bank. Even if we have money in the bank, there's so much uncertainty about what's going to happen tomorrow. Will there be money in the bank tomorrow? Will I have health tomorrow? What we're experiencing right now is a kind of death, a death of that sense of safety and security. And again, many other people have already experienced that through all the different crises, the 2008 crisis, 9/11, all of these big things that have happened that have changed people forever. We're having another one of those, obviously, at this time. And so we're experiencing another death of a sense of firmness, a sense of safety. It feels like all the things that we thought were rock solid are just disappearing. So we're experiencing that death, and it's a painful experience for us. But in that death, there is this opportunity for new life, of being able to see our way through that, and to live every day knowing that nothing is guaranteed, that every day is a gift. And for the people who I walk with every day who are dying, the ones who are able to navigate that experience of life, is that they are present each day, knowing that each day is a gift. And we don't have to wait until our days are numbered for us to recognize the gift of our lives. We can do that right now when we're having good health. We can recognize that every day is a gift, because that's the absolute truth. Every day is a gift. There is nothing guaranteed to us. Everything is a gift. And for me as a Christian, I believe everything is a gift from God. So I think one of the opportunities here is that we get to realize that our lives, each and every life, is a gift. No matter where we're from, no matter who we are, no matter the color of our skin, our socioeconomic background, how we speak, our accent, we're all human beings. And this virus, COVID-19, doesn't care. It doesn't care who we are. So we need to realize that we're all human, that we are each a gift to one another. And that is even heightened more so that we are forced to separate from one another. We realize the gift that we are to one another. So again, that's part of why I'm showing up here. We can't be together in person. And I see my mom saying hi. Thanks for being on here. Just a few weeks ago, I was there. I was back in my home country of Trinidad and Tobago, and I was able to be with my family. But now we are separated. Now we're not able to travel or be with others. So again, for those of you who are separated from loved ones around the world, my thoughts and prayers are with you. So I want to talk now a little bit about how do we make room for this chaos, this death that we're experiencing of certainty and safety. The way is to deal with that is to make room for that chaos, which is always there. It's always there. It's just at a heightened point in our minds right now. All right, it's risen to the surface of our psyche, of our conscious minds, but it's always there. We see it every day in people's lives. We know that life can change in an instant. So we have to make room for that potential for chaos and for that chaos. And for me, I mean, I know I read that passage on chaos and order, right? And we may think, okay, the opposite of chaos is order, right? Either I have order or I have chaos. and chaos is bad, order is good. I want to do everything in my power so that things are in order and not chaos. Avoid chaos as much as possible, have as much order as possible. But as we know, life doesn't quite work that way. There's always both at the same time, chaos and order. The opposite of chaos, I don't believe, is order. I believe the opposite of chaos is presence. So what do I mean by presence? Presence really is just about being mindful and being fully engaged with what's happening in that moment. So when we started this call, I invited us to become mindful of the feelings that we were having. I invited you to put a hand on your heart. We were practicing presence. We were becoming present to what we were feeling, thinking. So many of us, and I'm certainly going to put myself in that category. I'm a very busy person, quote unquote. Not something I'm very proud of, but we're all busy, right? We're all running around doing many, many things. And so one of the beautiful things about being busy is that we can run away from our emotions, things that we don't want to be present to. We can use our busyness as an excuse for, not having difficult conversations or feeling difficult, experiencing difficult feelings or emotions, or having, a difficult conversation with our spouse, or spending time with our kids, which, as wonderful as that is, it can be a difficult thing to give your attention and your time to another person because we are very concerned about ourselves. But presence gives us the opportunity to sit with difficult emotions, to sit with the things that we'd rather not sit with. And this crisis is forcing us to practice presence. There is no escaping it. You turn on the TV, it's there. You turn on the radio, it's there. Talk about what's happening in the world. So it's very hard to escape the level of anxiety that's out there, and we can feel it rising and rising. Well, if life is normal, then we can, go to, work ourselves into not having to feel those feelings. We can keep ourselves busy. We can go shopping at the mall. We can work out at the gym. We can even go to church, right? We do everything possible to escape the emotions that we're feeling. And at this point in time, it's very difficult to escape that. We're being forced to stop and sit and sit with these emotions, with the anxiety. So bringing presence to what we're feeling is how, paradoxically, we can allow it to just be. And then it will subside. We don't have to run away from it. We don't have to pretend it's not there. But we also don't have to engage with it and let it spiral out of control. We can just notice that it's there. I am anxious. And that's normal. It's a normal part of being human and going through something like this. It's normal to feel anxious. So allowing that anxiety space to be allows it to come and go. So the way that we make room for chaos is to be present with it. And that presence starts with ourselves. I need to be present to everything that's going on with me. And then being present to what others are experiencing, being present to our families, being able to be with them when they're afraid. Because if you think dealing with your anxiety is hard enough, imagine having to hold space for the anxieties of others. And you may already know this, that people around you, people in your household, are probably anxious as well. So we have to be present to one another in this time. Give each other our full attention, our time and our attention. I think that's the most important thing. If others are speaking to you and verbalizing difficult emotions, how can we make space to hear others without averting our eyes, turning away, or looking at our phones? How can we give attention to one another? I think this is the thing that will get us through this, and that will help us to grow stronger. In my work, that's all I do. I say to people, it's not rocket science just to sit with people who are going through a difficult time in their lives. All I can offer them is presence. I can't cure people who are sick. I can't make their relationships better. For some people, their relationships aren't great. I can't make the relationships better. All I can do is give them my presence, my time, and my attention, and allow them to share what they're going through, happy, sad, in between. And that in itself is healing. So what I want to say to you is that you can do that for yourself, first and foremost. That is going to be the way you can practice self-care in a time when our opportunities for self-care have been cut off. The ways that we take care of ourselves normally, like going out to eat or going to the gym or being with friends. All of those have been taken away from us because of what we're dealing with right now. But we can still practice presence. Again, starting with ourselves, because we can't truly be present to others until we first begin with ourselves, becoming aware of what's happening in us. And then we can then make space for others. So I want to pause here for a minute. I've gone on for about half an hour, and give you a chance to ask me questions or to make comments. I have one comment here saying, "I've attended Mass 3 times today. Thanks to live streaming." Yeah, isn't it wonderful that I think technology is great in so many ways, but I think in recent years we've been kind of bemoaning technology, how technology keeps us separated from one another. I just mentioned, we're all buried in our smartphones, and even when we're having dinner with one another, we're texting and scrolling through Instagram and maybe doing live video on Facebook, even though we have people in front of us. So we saw technology as a way of separating us. Isn't it wonderful now that this very technology is what we're using as a lifeline to help us stay connected to one another? So I've heard comments like that in recent days. People expressing gratitude for the technology, for the way that allows us to have some form of community when we're not able to gather in person. So I too am very grateful for the technology. And again, like I said, I'm live streaming for the very first time today. So you are having a front row seat to a very new experience for me. And as I said, I have thought of doing it for a long time, but I've always talked myself out of it. And today I even tried to talk myself out of it, but I just decided to send the email. And when I sent the email, I knew that I had to show up. So thank you, Mary, for sharing that comment. I also was able to go to Mass today, to go to church today online. And I was very grateful for that opportunity. I'm usually at church on a Sunday morning. As I had mentioned, I am a music director at my own church. And, so every Sunday I'm at church. And so it was a very different morning for me. It felt very weird. But I was so grateful to be able to find Mass online. It gave me some sense of normalcy, even though this is anything but normal. And it gave us a chance to just regroup and reset as a family, and to find a little bit of order in this chaos, and to be present to one another. So, and I hope you don't mind me using your names, but Wayne says, I'm blessed to be able to do my job from home. Unlike so many, I've thrown myself into my job as a way to occupy my thoughts. Join the club, my friend. Absolutely. I think that's what we do. That's how we cope. That's how we've coped as a society. We've just gone. We go to as a way of escape. And now we're not able to escape. So. And yes, it is a blessing to be able to work from home. And I think now, even as you're working from home, you may, and I don't know if you've worked from home in the past, or if you're having to work from home now because of what's happening, but maybe you have experience already and everything is set up for working from home. But I can imagine that there are many people out there who are moving from in-office work to working from home, who have to adjust to this new reality. So they don't have a setup for that. They have family at home. So they're working, but they also have to balance dealing with family members at the same time, having kids at home, people in the home who aren't normally at home. So that is probably very new, and having to navigate that might be very new. But just having the ability to work from home is wonderful. And so we adjust. We have to adjust. We have to make room for one another. It's wonderful that you're able to do that. And for those who aren't, again, we pray for their safety, for people who need to go out. Again, like the people on the front lines, nurses, doctors, people who have to go out there. We pray for their safety. There are people, we know this is going to happen more and more. There are people whose jobs and livelihoods don't really lend themselves to working from home. And we're going to see layoffs. People are going to be being laid off of their jobs, and they won't have the option to work from home. So, as you said, Wayne, so many people don't have that opportunity, and so we want to be mindful of people who will be losing their jobs, and doing whatever we can to help. And again, I know that I think even as we speak, the Congress is meeting about stimulus packages and so on. But we know that things will change. We know that this will be a difficult time. We just don't quite fully comprehend how hard it's going to be yet. It's very hard to wrap our minds around this right now. But each day, we have to bring presence to what's happening, to what's unfolding in front of us, and dealing with it and trying to help others as best as we can. Let's see, another comment. Presence, very powerful, yet ignored for a while. What has replaced presence in our lives, and how can we make it work again in a practical way? I think that is so true. I think presence has become ignored, even though we know, I think we sense how powerful it is. But again, our attention spans have been minimized because of, and again, I'm not judging anyone, I'm speaking for myself. It's very hard to be present. It's just hard work. It's hard work to sit and to listen to another, because I have my own feelings and emotions and thoughts going through my own mind. So it's hard to make space for others and to listen and to be fully present when my mind is going with 1,000 things. That's why we have to first learn to be present with ourselves, and to deal with our own feelings and emotions, so that we can make space for others as well. How can we make presence work again in a practical way? Well, I think this time is really forcing us in a way that many world events have not. It's forcing us to be present. And I would argue that this is the opportunity that this crisis is giving us. It's forcing us to be present to others. If you're trapped at home with your children and your spouse and with aunts and uncles, whoever are members of your household, you have to find a way now, learn how to get along and be present to one another. So this is forcing us to do that. What are some practical ways to be present? I think for me, and again, I can only speak for myself and my experience and what works for me. First is listen. Actually, kind of in a way, the fact that I'm sitting here talking for so long feels very unnatural to me. I spend most of my time listening to people. I try not to talk too much. So practical ways. Number one, I would talk less. There's the joke that God gave us 2 ears and one mouth, right? So we should be listening, twice as much as we talk. We need to talk less. And again, you're probably hearing lots of talk out there, lots of people talking and sharing and talking and talking. We need to talk less, and we need to open our ears. We need to open our heart, and we need to just start listening. And I think that's how we practice presence, listening to people. Even if someone is saying something that I may disagree with, can I keep myself from jumping in and wanting to rebut or come up with my response? Can I just listen and be with that person? Let them know that they are being heard. If you're going to talk, then can you ask questions? So I find myself, when I'm again working with the people who I work with, most of my talking is asking questions or reflecting back to them what was said to me, so that they know that I heard them, right? That they are being heard. What they are saying is being received with an open heart. Again, you don't have to agree. You don't have to like it. You just have to demonstrate that you are hearing what the person is saying. And again, it sounds like a small, insignificant thing, but I have come to realize how huge it is for people who feel ignored and lonely, not heard. So that's what I would say. Talk less, listen more. And I would say, so again, getting to practical things, what I try to do is be aware of my body language. So are my arms folded? Am I looking away? Am I looking down? I try to maintain as much eye contact as I can. That's comfortable for me, comfortable for the person. When I sit with a body that's open, so that so that I can communicate to that person in my very being that I'm open to hearing what they're saying. So I'm facing them directly. I'm not turned off to the side. I'm facing directly. And so they know just from my body that I am open to hearing what they have to say. We can be present to one another without even speaking at all. So being in the same room with others and just being able to sense one another's feelings, knowing, sometimes I'm at home and, I can sense that my spouse needs quiet space. We can just sit together quietly. We know that we're there for one another to support each other. We don't have to exchange words. We know that there is love when we're sharing space together. So, so listening, body language. This is how you demonstrate to people that you are giving them your attention, your time and attention. Again, in my experience, I have found that I don't have to have a lot of wisdom to offer. I don't have to say a lot of things to try to make people feel better. As hard as it is to believe, just making space for hearing what people have to say is enough. If there is something that you can offer, then with their permission, yes, I would offer words that may or may not be helpful for that person, but only they can decide that. So I don't come to people preaching at them and telling them, what's right and and what I think my way of looking at the world is the way the world is. That's not my style. It's just listening to people. So let's see. Yes, prayers for people who have been suddenly thrown into unemployment. Yes, absolutely. And as we saw with the last crisis, that's what happened. 2008, people who had never been laid off, people who had never been on unemployment were suddenly thrust into unemployment. At that time, I was a college chaplain, and I remember taking students to a homeless shelter. We went there. I took the students, and we made a meal. Actually, it was a Sunday afternoon like this. It was a Sunday afternoon, and we made a meal for the homeless residents, and then we sat and we ate with them. And I was struck by the stories. At least this person who I sat with, I was struck by his story because he was telling me, before this, I had a job, I had a home, I had a pretty normal life, what we would consider a pretty normal life. And all of a sudden, this person found himself without a job and homeless. And again, talk about order and chaos. it made me realize in an instant how life can change very suddenly, and how my life could change very suddenly like that. And I was grateful for that reminder. Um, but this person, what this person said to me though, that was very encouraging and inspiring was that, he said, I'm just passing through this. This is not going to define who I am. This is not who I am as a person. I am going through this difficult time. I happen to be homeless right now, but this is not where I'm going to stay. I thought that was a remarkable thing, because homelessness, poverty is so stigmatized. This person was saying, it's not who I am. It's where I am right now, but it's not who I am. So yes, we are in a time again when people will be going through unemployment for the first time, maybe homelessness for the first time. So how are we as a global society at this point, globally, going to help each other through these difficult days? How do you help people deflect their fears? Are words enough? So I think the idea is to not help people deflect fear, but to be present to it. So this all comes back to presence. It's very, I would say it's impossible to deflect or to ignore fear, especially something that's visceral. Again, kind of what we're going through right now. We just don't know what's going to happen, right? It's very hard to escape that sense of foreboding. Will I have a job tomorrow? It's very hard to just push those fears aside. So again, for the people who I work with, for the dying, it's impossible if a person is afraid to not feel that fear. The idea is to bring full presence and attention to those fears. And again, I mean, I say these words, it's very hard to, what does that mean? What does it mean to bring presence? It just, allowing yourself to feel, basically, allowing yourself to feel and not trying to keep yourself busy, or all the different techniques and strategies that we use to not feel. So when I say bring presence, all it means is just allowing ourselves to feel the fear. If you allow yourself to feel the fear, then it goes through you, as opposed to trying to block it. Then it's stuck inside of you, and it does more harm as opposed to just allowing it to go through. So giving people a place to verbalize those fears in a safe environment that is open, that is kind. You have a person who's open-hearted, kind, loving, giving people a space to be able to share those fears and concerns, is allowing them to be present. It allows them to be present, and you give them permission to do that. Are words enough? I would say there are no words that can really speak to what a person is going through. I think the actual physical being, my being open and present with that person, is where the power is. Um, if the words are helpful, it's only because it's reflecting to them that they are being heard. So there's very little wisdom I can offer to someone who's dying. Um, I, you know, so, and it's foolish really, because I'm not dying right now. So I'm not going through that experience myself. So there's nothing in my experience that I could offer a person who is going through that. So words tend to fall flat. But it's really being open to the experience of another person. So, and again, the way that we can be open to others is that we have to start with ourselves. We have to stop running away from ourselves. And so this time gives us the opportunity. So I want to see this as an opportunity. Okay, this time of crisis, it's an opportunity to stop running from ourselves. We've been running from ourselves for too long, and life is giving us an opportunity to stop running and to face our fears, to get in touch with who we are as individuals, but also as a species. This crisis is a global crisis. As a species, but we have to start with ourselves, and sitting each day, sitting with those fears, allowing them to go through, bringing presence to yourself, allowing yourself to feel and be without judging, without beating up on yourself for being afraid or for being angry, or for being, maybe guilty, maybe feeling guilty because if you're here, then you're probably in relatively good health. So maybe there is some guilt that, you can work from home. There are others who can't. There's guilt for people who don't have the necessary supplies at home, for people who live alone, for people who don't have loving family support. I mean, there's so much for us who have those things to be grateful for, but there can also be guilt, recognizing that there are many people who don't have those things right now. Guilt for the fact that we're alive and that many people are losing their lives as we speak, as we sit here in relative comfort. So, so we have all these different feelings that we're going through right now. We have to bring presence to those, to have a chance of being present to each other. Questions, keep them coming. Questions, thoughts, comments. Again, I'm kind of babbling here, and we're hitting, let's see, we're 53 minutes in. I can keep going a little bit longer if you'd like, but if you have questions, now is the time. So feel free to ask me anything that's on your mind. What are your fears, concerns? What are you most concerned about? If you care to share, or just any thoughts on what I've been babbling about. So, uncertainty, chaos, these aren't necessarily bad things in themselves. What we need is to bring presence to the chaos, and do whatever you can to create a little bit of order, to have some order. Try something new. If you have the time to maybe get up early and spend some time meditating. I had the opportunity yesterday to clean up my backyard, which I've been putting off for months and weeks. I spent a few hours outside, working outside yesterday. It was cold, but the sun was shining, kind of like it is now. And had an opportunity just to catch up on some yard work. You may have projects laying around at home that you've been wanting to do, but have been putting off, and using your busyness as an excuse, as a wonderfully convenient excuse to not do those things, whatever projects you have. For me, it's been working on my online course that I've been creating for many months, but because I have so many areas of my life where I need to be, I've been putting it off. Well, now is an opportunity for me to work on that. Maybe even to work on another book, writing another little book. So what opportunities, how can you turn this around to finding opportunities to engage in things that you haven't before? Another example for me, spending more time with my family, with my kids. So before I cleaned up the yard yesterday, I spent time playing with the kids outside, which they love. And I love playing with the kids too, but I know that I can often use my busy life as an excuse to not spend more time with the kids. But they love it. They love it when we get down with them and get down and dirty and play with them. I'm being asked how many kids. Though those of you who know me, you know that I have many children. I don't even know how many. I've lost count. No, 7 children. So I have a very big and busy household, and they're all wanting my attention and my time. Well, now I have more time to be able to give them attention, and to my spouse as well. So these are all opportunities, right? Opportunities to grow our relationships. There will be challenges for sure. Again, being trapped in the house, there'll be times of, frayed nerves and hot tempers, but even in that, we have to remain and stay with each other, stick with each other through this. So I would like you to see this. I'd like all of us together, to see this as an opportunity to grow in our connectedness, in our love for each other. If we thought that we were separate and not connected and we could just live our own lives and not worry about other people, if we thought that was the case, I think for those of us who are paying attention, I think we know now that is not true. That we need each other, and that we need each other just to be able to live. And that is even in normal times. We need each other. And I hope that our eyes can be open to this, and that we can step up and help each other. We can, get groceries for each other, not clear off those grocery shelves so that other people don't get. Let's be mindful of others. If we go shopping, to take only what is needed for us, and being mindful of other people as well, leaving items for others. We're going to figure this out. We'll have to learn how to navigate all that. What does shopping look like? Am I tempted in my panic to take all of the product off the shelves, or do I leave some behind for others? Simple things like that. We want to be mindful that if others aren't doing well, then we don't do well. We need to take care of each other. So we're right around the hour mark, 1 hour. We can wrap things up here, but I just want to again give anyone who has a question, a comment, a concern, don't be shy. Please feel free to share, and I can address whatever questions you have. I'll stay as long as people have questions. So thank you. It says here, that way we too are present. Yes, thank you for your presence here. Thank you for taking the time to come and to listen and to share. And I just thank you for showing up and for sending positive thoughts. And again, we will get through this day by day, each day. You're very welcome. Thank you for doing this. Very helpful. You're very welcome. One last thing I want to maybe just leave with you, and again, I'm going to say this to myself more than anyone else. I've really been trying to monitor how I engage with the news. Full disclosure, admission, I'm a bit of a news junkie in normal times. And I've had ups and downs with that. There are periods of time when I've been able to stay away from the news. I think it was last year or the year before during Lent, which of course we are now. During Lent, I committed to staying away from the news for all of Lent, and it was a wonderful time. Here we are, Lent again, where we are being invited to simplify our lives and give things up and take things on that are meaningful and helpful to others. And now the news has become the center of our lives for many of us. Again, because of our worry, because of our fear. I'm sure that the news channels are on pretty often, if not 24/7. So I want to be mindful. I would like to invite you too to be mindful of how much news you are consuming. I find myself saying, if I've heard this before, if I'm tuning in, and if everything that they're saying I've heard before, then I can give myself permission to turn it off. So use if this is helpful for you, you could use that as a criteria to help you know if you need to engage or not. If you've heard it before, if the information is not new, if it's not something that you need to know for your own safety, then I would want to limit myself from that. So give yourself a certain amount of time to watch and engage, and then try to unplug as much as possible. Of course, we need to be engaged because we want to know what's going on. We want to know how to keep ourselves and our families safe. So we can't really avoid the news altogether at this point, but we can still engage with it in a good way. Also, try to pay attention to local news. In times like this, we tend to kind of look to the national news outlets, which certainly has its use, but local news kind of impacts you more in your own day-to-day life. So I would be sure to be tuning into what local news is saying. Again, being mindful to not be overly engaged in it, but certainly being engaged with it without the sensational aspects of things, to just keep you informed so you know what's happening in your community, what's happening with testing, what's happening with the number of cases, what's happening with what your city or town or state is trying to do to mitigate spread and to keep everyone safe. So limit news intake as much as you're able. Don't completely unplug. I wouldn't recommend that at this time, but certainly be smart about how you're engaging. And again, I'm saying this to myself. I'm not judging anyone out there. I'm the one who's sitting with my phone, news streaming, and I have to at some point put it down and put it away. So there's that. But also try to put positive things in. So if you're watching an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of news, try to do at least as much positive things. Put in positive things into your mind. So, podcasts have been growing over the years. I'm a big podcast junkie, and I listen to lots of positive podcasts. So I would encourage you to engage those things. So listen to positive, inspirational podcasts. If you are religious, I would certainly invite you to engage your faith online. So listening to positive religious things, reading the Bible, so doing things that to kind of counteract that negativity. So when you become present to what you're experiencing, then you are able to act in a way that allows you to minimize it. You're not acting out of fear, but just saying, okay, I'm going to engage. Here's what I can do. I can engage in some positive things, like listening to positive material, reading positive books, and having conversations, talking to people on the phone, picking up the phone and getting in touch with loved ones. I spoke to my family yesterday, which was very good for me, for my soul, because I'm worried about my family far away from me. What else? Just try to put in as much positivity in your life as you can, and feed your soul. For those of us religious folks who can't go to church, go to mass, try to stream a daily mass, and so on. So there are things that you can do to stay positive and to stay healthy. Have Skyping sessions with your family, as we have done. So get on Skype or whatever you use, Zoom, and just stay in touch with your family in that way. And send a text to a friend who you haven't talked to in a long time. Send them a text, send them an email, let them know you're doing okay. See how they're doing. These are the small ways that we can turn the anxiety that we're feeling into real action, right? Or you can do something like me, hop on the internet and have a live stream, right? That's one of the ways that I can deal with my stress and anxiety, by trying to help others as well. And I certainly pray and hope that this was helpful to you. And I just thank you very much for your attention, for your presence, for your precious time. And I pray for each and every one of you here who are on live with me. Those of you who may be watching this later on, I pray for each and every one of you for your safety for you, for your family, for your friends, for those who you love. Safety, of course, in your health, but also in your mind and heart, that the anxiety will not overtake you and that it will not bring you down, but that you will go day by day, living day by day, doing what needs to be done. So putting one foot in front of the other each and every day. Okay, so thank you again. And maybe if this was really beneficial, and you'd like to do this again, I would love to jump on and do it again. I've done it once, so hopefully if I do it again, it will be easier, and I wouldn't be as nervous or anxious about doing it. So thank you again. Peace and blessings to you and your family. Peace.